Hello, hello, girlies. Welcome back to another episode of Chatty Rats. I am
Hey.
your co host, Natalia, and I'm joined by
Hi guys, it's Rasheen.
all the singing comes from me just being in the best mood ever, dude. I just joined a luxury gym in Denver and I feel like I'm on drugs. I was like, who gave me drugs? Because I feel so good. I'm all of a sudden, I was deeply researching for the podcast. I have energy. I'm doing good at work. I was like, what is this life of joy?
Dude,
I can't.
working out is insane what it does for you. Like who knew? No one told us
Crazy.
that
No one told
that,
me.
that no one told us working out is the key.
Yeah, but the gym that I joined is like a little more expensive than I'm used to. It has like a lot of amenities like the sauna, lap
Mm.
pool is like a regular like hangout lounge with a drink pool. The gym itself is super nice and the classes are like amazing. Like you have like bar, Pilates, cycling, like all the whole nines. And I like love that atmosphere. And I figured that if I was like spending a little more money, then it would force me to go more often. But also, like, if I don't want to work out because I'm lazy, the sauna will drive me to go, because I'm like, oh, it's going to feel so
Yes.
good.
Or just like taking a nice shower there with the nice
Yes.
products and stuff.
Yes. Yes. It's so nice. And I catch myself just excited and I'm all the time. And I'm like, wow, the key is just working out. But you're joining a gym as well, right?
Yes, I joined officially yesterday.
Congrats.
So I saw the tour and I immediately was like, I'm signing up. Let me describe it to you guys. So this is a gym in LA called Hey Mat. And I guess it's like one of the first membership where you have to like apply to get in. You can't just like sign up. So you apply. The way the process worked for me was like I applied and you're supposed to put your social media, but they were like, hey, like our website glitched. We never got your social media. Like you can give it to us or you can come in for a tour. So basically coming in for the tour is their way of like approving your application or not, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, I went in for a tour yesterday and you walk in. First of all, valet parking only.
Okay. Okay.
Let's set the scene. You walk in, and then there's these like all gold doors. And then you like open the door, you go in, and it's just a lobby. It's almost like a lobby of a hotel, and you can't see like a gym or anything. And then from there, you take the elevator up. And then we started from up and worked our way down. On the top floor is a co working space. So just all people with their laptops, little areas to like sit, quiet room, all the things. Then lower is a pool with like cabanas, lounge chairs, and a
Oh,
restaurant.
oh,
Then underneath that, you have the Pilates room, the yoga room, weight training, blah, blah, blah. And then under that is spa, weights, cardio room, the locker rooms, which have a sauna. It was the nicest gym I've ever stepped in,
yeah.
like ever. And for comparison, I think the nicest probably before this in LA was maybe Equinox.
Mhm.
But Equinox in LA has gotten because it's not a newer gym, it's been here for a while. Like it's not that nice. I used to be like a member. It's
Yeah.
not that nice.
Oh,
Like when you
really?
compare it to
Or
something like this. Certain locations of Equinox are really nice, but they've just gotten old, if that makes sense, because they haven't like renewed it. It just kind of looks like a
um,
normal gym.
oh, interesting. So they've lost,
Yeah.
like, the shock factor of, like, "This is stunning."
I think the ones in New York are really nice. Like the
Oh, are
newer
they?
Equinoxes, yeah. Like there's one in Hudson Yards that like has outdoor sauna, pool, like it has the whole shebang.
Oh my god. No, yeah, because I remember, like, the feeling when I walked into the Equinox in LA, and I was like, "I'm rich."
Because they were the first to
Yeah.
do it. Their eucalyptus towels, that was like
Oh,
unheard of, right?
yeah! Oh my god,
Yeah.
yes! I remember that. Oh my god.
But yeah, I immediately signed up for this. I was like, I'm signing up. I am going
I'm
every day.
going. I feel like, especially because you work a lot from your home and things like that.
Yeah.
It's like a social aspect to your day, which I think will be huge. Like
Just to
even being
see
able to
people,
go,
yeah.
yeah, to go co-work. I think that's number one. You don't have a pool in your new apartment, so like it'll be nice to have a
Exactly.
pool. And whatever high I feel right now, you gonna love it. You gonna love it.
I was in that high. Do you remember when I would be like, "I'm the happiest I've been?" It was because I was doing my morning hikes. I'm
Oh
getting back
yes.
there though,
But I
but
get you, like, life happens, and I feel like I've told you guys the last, like, 3, 4 months, I was doing, like, 12-hour days, like, yeah, I could've and woke up at 5 AM, but n no, that's not me, but it's so nice to see how, like, the simple things can really ease the
impact your
depression, because I was, like, in a funk
yeah, dude.
a little bit, and I was like, "I think I
Yeah.
hate everything and everyone." And here I am, I'm like, "Guys, everybody just let's have fun."
It's such a hard cycle to break because okay, you don't have energy to go to the gym, so you
Yeah,
don't go, but then going to the gym gives you more energy. But it doesn't feel like that when you don't have the energy to go, right? So that's why it's, like, hard to complete that loop. But it's like once you
exactly,
just push yourself, actually going is gonna give you more energy than not going. So,
exactly. Guys, this is
yeah.
now Chatty Rats is now a health and fitness podcast. Stay tuned for workout videos, tips, advice. No, but I am happy for us. This is gonna be great.
So, I wanna tell you about the wildest DM I have ever received to date, okay?
Okay, okay.
So, I got this DM and I opened it and it was like, "Hey girl, I just wanna let you know that I think you are a loser that is not going to amount to anything. You've been doing this for years, and look at you with your small amount of followers. You're going to be nothing. And I bet that your parents are not proud of you." And that DM was from me to me. Just kidding. Okay, so we're going to unpack that. Aren't we? Aren't we? So that what was that, Natalia? That was my shadow self speaking. And I think giving it in that example is good because we're kind of confronting, like, oh, damn, like we do talk to ourselves sometimes in that way. Right.
Mhm.
And we're going to unpack that today. If that example doesn't resonate with you, we'll let Natalia give you guys another example.
Yeah, I mean, guys, it is election year, so I think that when we're talking about the shadow self, one good question I can show you guys is, what if I told you that if you hate Trump or Kamala, that is a mirror to the qualities you hate about yourself? And I know that's spicy, but we're going to break it down in this episode to describe what is the shadow self and what can we do about it, because we didn't know this, but she's the puppet master that no one talks about. So I'm super excited to like dive into this topic.
So we're gonna start from the top. This whole term was popularized by Carl Jung, who studied psychology, I believe. And there's two categories of the shadow. That's what he called it and what he
Mhm.
spent his career exploring. There's the personal shadow, so like something we all have and possess, and then there's like the collective shadow, which is
Mhm.
basically all of us collectively have a shadow and participate in it. I think let's start with breaking down the personal shadow and then eventually later we can get into the collective shadow. I'll start with like one little quote. It's really short. He says, "The shadow is the thing a person has no wish to be."
So I feel like the shadow self is parts of yourself that you kind of deny, but they are within you. And this could be like a good part of yourself that you maybe have a little bit of shame around. So, for example, like maybe I'm loud, so I suppress my loudness. Or it can also be something dark, right? Like maybe you are impulsive, maybe you're angry, and you're like, no, no, I can't be this. However, what happens when society or even like our parents tells us like, no, you cannot
Mhm.
be this, but that's still a part of who you are. So that's kind of like what is the shadow. And I feel like a good way to find out what is my shadow is by finding things that you get like extremely angry about, right? So we like did two examples at the beginning, but another classic example would be like, let's just say you're living life, you're watching Bravo, and there's the villain of whatever, let's say Summer House, the Housewives, whatever, and you were like, I hate this woman, I hate this man. Usually that means that there's a quality in them that you might have suppressed, that you're just so angered by it, because like there's no reason for you to be angry at like this reality TV show. Like, why are you throwing your wine glass at the TV? So I feel like if you find things like this that you are angered by, this is a projection, right? Because you're like, I don't like this about myself, and this person's displaying that quality. So I feel like that's a good way to find like, what is your shadow? If you don't know what that is, because we all have them. It's just that some people, it is just like so deep in our subconscious.
Yeah. I think it can also be like beyond the emotions of anger. It can be like jealousy, envy,
Mm-hmm.
frustration, like annoyance. So it's just something that it almost has like you have an unreasonable level of emotion about, where if you're like sitting logically, you're like, I'm watching TV. Why is it bringing up these really crazy emotions? And a lot of the times it's things we hide. So it could be things, little sides to ourselves that we try to hide from friends, from family, where we think if I were to show this, I wouldn't be loved, I wouldn't be liked, I would
Mm-hmm.
be maybe ostracized. So you try to hide them. And you were kind of touching on projection. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
talk about the three ways, classic examples, how like the shadow can show up. So we have projection, which I feel like we hear and talk about all day and all
Mm-hmm.
night. Then we have denial, and then we have dichotomized states. And then we can go into examples. So, like, projection is an interesting one. I
Mm-hmm.
think of the Reddit snark pages. So, if you guys have ever heard, there's a side of Reddit where these groups of people gather and they will like snark on different influencers, celebrities, content creators, basically go vomit all their grievances and criticism onto these forums. And I think that's an interesting case study for projection or denial. But I'll let you go with giving us some more examples of what projection can look like.
I talked about anger a lot. For example, if one of your dark shadow self trait is anger, you might pop off like to someone at work. You might send like an anger email. You cannot control yourself when it comes to this. Or another classic vulnerable example, it's for me. I felt like I wasted a lot of my life dating really bad men because I think I was trying to give them what I did not feel like I received when I was younger. That stems from like trauma and all the spicy things. But I lived in this cycle for like almost 10 years because I didn't want to fix myself. This is a projection. And I was like giving them all the healing when I should
Hmm.
have been spending that time working on me. And I feel like this happens to a lot of women. If you are someone that is in a cycle that I was in, which is just fixer uppers are us, I think that it might be good to explore the shadow, because I would always attract these men that had like some little bit of darkness in them. And I was always like,
Hmm.
ooh, let me see. Like, I was always intrigued. And upon a lot of work, I like had to go to therapy and fix myself. And that was me being avoidant of that shadow of myself, right? Just being like, no, 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 like I'm fine, like I'm good. Let me fix other people.
Exactly.
And I feel like a lot of empaths fall under that like category as well. So I feel like that's an example of projecting, because on paper I thought I was like Mother Teresa saving the world, one fuckboy at a time, but I wasn't doing myself or them really any favors. Right. So yeah.
So basically how it works is you were focusing on the fact that the problem is them, like, oh, I need to fix them, instead of the problem is within me. As in, like, I need to
Hmm.
fix and heal within myself. And that's how projection works, is like you project whatever is in you, like, oh, I need to like heal and get to know myself better and become more self-aware. You project that onto your partner. And you're like, he needs to heal. He needs to get better. Like he needs to do this. It's like,
Yeah.
"Nice."
Exactly, and every time we would get in a fight, being like, "You have to change this." It's like it was
Yeah,
literally a mirror, maybe like, "Natalia, you gotta change this
exactly.
behavior."
And I think to break it down more, so let's say you were with a cheater and infidelity was something you were trying to like overcome and fix within him. I don't think it necessarily means that like that is also within you. It just means that there was things within you that you hadn't healed and fixed. So you're instead focusing on that. So it's not a one for one, if that makes sense.
No, for sure, it
Okay.
doesn't mean that, like, if you're with a cheater, that equals you are a cheater, and that's
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's what I
yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
clarify.
No, no, but there's a reason you're in that situation, and that's the part that has to be, like,
That's the part that you have
explored.
to uncover, and
Mhm.
we've all been there. And that I think that's the journey of life is through relationships, figuring out these different parts of yourself. So, I wanna talk about denial because I think that one is really,
Mhm.
really interesting, and that one I think ties a little bit to the political figures we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So, this is an example. Let's say when you were a little kid, you were told being loud, being assertive is not good, or you just learned through society that that is rude. That's not something you should aspire to be. So you chose and live your life by like, that is a bad quality. I'm not gonna like do that. I'm not gonna become loud. I'm not gonna become assertive. Then when you go out into this world and you've repressed this side of yourself, you see other people being loud and assertive, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Why is that person being like that? And it starts to annoy you and build resentment in you and almost like a level of guilt that is because you've denied yourself of these qualities through society. And then that shows up in your shadow
Mm.
self as well.
So it's like a jealousy, like, I low key wish I was loud too.
It's not
No?
necessarily jealousy because I think through society we like correct ourselves, right? So who is to say like what your true self would have been without the molding of society? But because you were taught that you should repress this side of assertiveness, who knows what level of assertiveness you would have had. So I just think when you see it in other people so strongly, it just brings up these feelings because you didn't get to express that. So I think that's what kind of happens in political figures or reality stars we tend to like hate. There's something about them that we probably had to like repress within ourselves or we couldn't like express because we saw as a bad quality. So then seeing it triggers these deep emotions.
No, that's super interesting. And what was the 3rd one again?
Oh yeah, so there's one more. I think this one's we see it a bunch of times, but dichotomized states. This is when our shadow self manifests in psycho-intensive states of activation as really inappropriate jokes, retaliatory jealousy, anger, and like vengeful thoughts. So
Yeah, the classics.
the classics, we all
The
have those.
classics. I think all in all is like you're spending this energy in everything but fixing the issue, right? Because these are very strong emotions, and it's like, holy shit, like why am I experiencing life in this way?
And to bring it back to like the Reddit snark page, I think it could be parts of all of these three. And one thing we can look at in life is like if you feel a sense of jealousy or envy, that's not also a good place to really look. Is it showing you something you want? Because
Mm,
most of the times it is anger, jealousy, injustice, envy. I feel like it's being like that's unfair that this person has it because I want it. So that's a good place to
yeah,
also look that those
yeah.
feelings come up.
So just to wrap up that little sentiment, the shadow self can be a good thing, a good trait in which you're hiding, but also it can be a bad thing, something naughty, like it is in my case. So I wanted to talk about a little bit of what our guy, Dr. Young, was talking about, which is shadow work, right? The practice is bringing conscious awareness to the unconsciousness. So, number one is identifying these things within us. So, we're like, okay, Sheen Natalia, we know these things. Like, what the hell do I do with this information? I think that there's a couple of things that I've done a little research on. So, number one is channeling the shadow. So if it's like a good trait, like that you're just probably repressed when you were young, it's just about learning how to come into your authentic self, right? So if you had like shame around being like loud and if you suppress that, it's like, oh, okay, let me allow myself to be more extroverted. Let me allow myself to just express that side of myself, the playful side of myself that was suppressed from childhood, or channeling our shadows through art. I feel like it's another common one. So, for example, I think comedy is a really good example. A lot of comics use that dark human experience and they make it into jokes, and that is then channeled into laughter. So, I feel like art is a great one. But sometimes, if we have these bad traits, and I've mentioned anger before, what the hell do I do with that? I mean, of course, there's therapy and things like that, which is always good. But if you have like this anger within you, it's like, how do I channel this for a good cause? Like maybe it's like I want to take down big oil, or I'm really passionate about like politics and I'm joining organizations that are like providing change for these things that I think are terrible for the world. That is one way to move this feeling, this strong emotion into something positive, right? So I feel like that's great, but I also wanted to talk about a thing called somatic healing, which I think is pretty fascinating. So it's essentially like the flow of energy. And this is a little bit more woo woo. It might not be for everybody, but these are traditional things that breath work, for example. Like you can shake it out. Dancing, even like when people say, like, dance it out. People believe that some of these like strong emotions are just stuck in our bodies. So
Mhm.
essentially, by moving our bodies, we are letting them exit so they're not like contained and waiting to like burst out. And I feel like this might feel like a little woo woo for some people, but I would say like, obviously like don't mock it until you try it. And to bring it back to something I saw recently, there's this girl named Sky Cohen's, and she basically this video went viral, 43 million views.
That's insane.
I know. It's basically like these people at a retreat and they're like doing this practice. So which is like them
Mhm.
yelling and like expressing these like emotions through movement. And people popped off on the comments. They were like angry, like, oh, like white people be like privilege at its finest. And like, who are they hurting? And she took the very graceful approach to this to going viral and was like, actually ended up like explaining the practice in her video, which I can link below, but I loved it. So I feel like when you're working with your shadow, shame is something that really comes up and fear of changing as well. So I feel like that's what I learned from the video. And that brings me back to a quote by our favorite guy, Mr. Young. And he says, thinking is difficult. That is why we judge. So when you are kind of engaging in these healing practices, it might come at the cost of a little bit of judgment, but you have to learn to surpass that, especially as it comes to like expressing things that are authentically you that we've have felt shame for years. It's good because like once you come out the other side, you're going to be like that much happier. And then I think the last thing Sheen and I talked about was journaling and therapy. I mean, Sheen, you journal a lot. Maybe you can talk on this more. What do you think about journaling as it comes to doing
Well,
shadow
I
work?
think okay, so I think the center of shadow work is there is things within you that you try to either hide from yourself or from others. So what you basically want to get at is having honest conversations with yourself. So that's why I think if you can do that through journaling, amazing. And I think that's why the shadow work journal went viral on TikTok because it
Mhm.
had questions for you to dig deep within that. And then if that's not something you're comfortable with, that's where I think therapy can come in because someone else who's unbiased and trained and can walk you through kind of picking apart at what
Mhm.
things might be your shadow can be really, really helpful. When I was listening to Dr. James Hollis on Andrew Huberman, he was also talking about one way to maybe know what your shadows are and kind of start working through them is kind of a scary one, but you should ask people you trust that are close to you, like partners or family. Hey, what are some qualities I should work on? Because the thing is, people sometimes can see our shadow sides that we can't
Yeah,
see. So that could be
100%.
another way to like get feedback. So you can start having self-awareness because I think that's the biggest thing we need when it comes to facing our shadow or shadow work is having awareness and like taking responsibility for it.
100%. And I think that as these things come up, I think that it's good to practice compassion. We all have this. Now, maybe half of your friends are not facing this because they're afraid. I mean, we're all afraid
Exactly.
of some parts of ourselves. And one last quote, I am in my quote era. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will think it's fate.
Hmm.
And I
That's deep.
love this because a lot of us live like I did for a long time in zombie mode, thinking that this is just what happens to me. So it's all about like having the self awareness can really, really change your life. But if it gets a little spooky, that's okay. But pushing through that is what's going to make a big difference. So have compassion because in the end of the day, this is what being human is. We're not this one perfect holy thing, and I think that we have to stop pretending that that's what we should be. Like we should be all namaste, all this is like no, it's okay if there's a little chaos. This is actually like normal. We shouldn't be the Buddha, all of us. You know what I mean? Like it's so normal. And I think that when you think that everybody in the world is going through this, I feel like that can help you have this compassion of like, hey, it's okay that I have this little thing I have to work on, or it's okay if like this comes up for me.
Yeah.
I think that's a good framework, just like compassion. Because I think that for a while I did not have that for myself. So I definitely recommend.
And it's like probably because you didn't have it for yourself, you also didn't have it for other people.
Exactly. And that's where I think the judgment comes in too, right?
Yes. That's so true. Because it's like once you don't have the judgment for yourself or vice versa, you won't have it for other people.
Exactly.
I was also gonna say if you're not motivated by discovering your own shadows for your own personal good, you should be motivated for the collective good and the collective shadow. Because
Mhm.
Carl Jung believes that the collective shadow is basically what causes wars, genocides. Basically, evil is represented through the collective shadow. So we all contribute to it in a sense.
Mhm.
And that could be like another motivation factor. There was something I saw that broke down how to basically work through it in 5 easy steps. So easy. So I'm going to tell you guys. So number
Let's
1,
see.
like acknowledge your personal shadow and shadow work. So just becoming aware and acknowledging, okay, like I have it. Got to do something about it. Number 2 is to not become passive victims of our shadows. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of people get stuck in this where it's like they claim being a victim and then that becomes their identity. And then where do you go from there? Like, yes, you can be a victim for the rest of your life, but what is that going to get you besides
Mhm.
the victim card? And then 3, rescue the good qualities that lie dormant because not all of your shadow is negative. We want to reiterate
Mhm.
that because there can be good things, creativity, like lots of juices inside of there. It's just essentially the sides you've learned to repress through survival. And then 4, be consciously aware of the collective shadow. So take a peek around. I feel like we see it a lot, especially now that we're getting more polarized, the collective
Mhm.
shadows happening, like the hate and the quick labeling of someone good or bad. That's where it's like, oh, if you vote this way, you're a bad person. If you vote this way, you're a good person. We're seeing it everywhere. And then
Yeah.
number 5, take responsibility and tell the truth. And then I have a
Yeah.
quote. We just love our little quotes. I have a good
Dude, this
quote.
is the
So,
quote episode, but I'm loving it.
So, if we practice mindfulness, we will know how to look deeply into the nature of war. And with our insight, wake people up so that together we can avoid repeating the same horrors again and again. The war is in us, but it is also in everyone. Everything is ready to explode, and we are all co responsible. Bam.
Damn. That's fucking deep. I
It
love that
is
because
deep.
oh, I am that was delicious. I think it's a great sum up for this conversation because once you do work on yourself, you are one human in this humanity. But if more of us got to the place where we're not having this, maybe we could have a more peaceful, happy world because it really does start with us, right?
Mhm.
And then, I mean, we pass things on to our children as well. Like
Mhm.
it's a slow progression, but it's a slow upward progression. So I really like that you can really make an impact in the world in fixing yourself because it truly is just like a butterfly effect. So I love that
Yeah,
sentiment a lot, especially nowadays when the world is just it's
chaotic.
bad. It's
I
bad.
know, because everyone, like, I think looks to fix outside of their house before, like, fixing their own house, and
Mhm.
I think this is a good reminder, like, let's fix what's inside before we go out trying to fix other things. Or else we're gonna project. We're gonna, like, make the collective shadow worse.
Wow, what a beautiful conversation. Also, may I add that we're both wearing black and take down
Oh,
the
that's
shadow.
funny. I was about to
Which I
change too,
love.
that's funny, and I didn't.
No, it
It
was
was
meant to
meant to
be.
be. Loved this conversation. Hope you guys liked it as well. We love you guys.
We
Let
love you
us know
so
what you think.
much. Yeah, don't forget to rate, subscribe, comment, do all the things. Give us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Like that is
Everything. I
that
think we
help.
got up to 17, which was so exciting.
Yeah. So guys,
They're
please
doing it. They're listening. They're
please do it. And we
listening.
love you so much. Let us know what you think about this conversation, what came up for you. We'd love to chat. Have a great week. Don't forget
Love
to work out.
you. Hey.
We love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.